In the beginning of June, you might have noticed a haze in the air from the Canadian wildfires. NOAA's very own Joe Della Carpini from the National Weather Forecast explains why.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Della Carpini. I'm a meteorologist and the Science and Operations Officer in the National Weather Service's Boston office located at Norton, and also a resident here in Norwood. Here to talk to you today about why we've seen all the smoke the past month or two, especially, showing some nice red sunrises and sunsets. So we're going to get into a little bit about the weather pattern and why we've seen so much smoke, and then, will we see any more smoke as we go through the rest of the summer? So to start, the forest fire smoke really has been an issue here in the Boston area since the latter part of May and especially early June. And you can see the picture here of looking at the city of Boston. This was the first week of June when the smoke was probably most noticeable. And it's a result of smoke from Canadian wildfires actually in several places. On the left, you can see a satellite image here, and you can see the smoke pretty apparent by that kind of dust-looking appearance here over New York and Pennsylvania, kind of sweeping into New England. These were from wildfires out in Western Canada that we saw initially in the latter part of May into early June. And also some other fires developed in Quebec and also up in Newfoundland, and that smoke actually made its way down as well. So, we know there are wildfires out there all the time. So really, why don't we see smoke all the time? So let's take a look and see. So as I mentioned, we had wildfires beginning in Western Canada out toward, British Columbia and Alberta. This was in May, and this was actually the result of a very dry weather pattern out in the western part of Canada. And these fires were started by lightning strikes. And you can see the map on the right kind of shows us the weather up at like the jet stream level, and that's kind of what steers our weather conditions here near the ground. So this is called a very strong, what's called upper level ridge of high pressure. So when we think about high pressure, we think about dry, sunny weather typically, and it's no different when you go up toward the jet stream level, but it also implies very hot and dry weather. And this upper level high pressure system was very persistent over the west coast and into the western part of Canada for much of the spring. So as a result, there was a greater than normal chance for wildfires in those areas. And as I mentioned, there were a few days of thunderstorms that actually ignited those fires. Then in early June, in addition to that smoke, we saw more fires develop, again, the result of lightning, which is fairly typical in the spring and summer. These developed in Nova Scotia, Quebec, and even Newfoundland. And you can see on the left a satellite view of some of the forest fire smoke there. So as this smoke also came down into our area. But the question is, why did we see smoke from both? Well, it really had to do with this persistent weather pattern. So as you've noticed in the spring and so far this summer, we haven't seen too many hot, humid days, into the 90s. We had actually some 90-degree temperatures in April, but not much since then. It's been the result of a very persistent jet stream pattern. What we're seeing is low pressure. So with low pressure, again, this is up near the jet stream level. So we tend to see cooler weather, showery weather this time of year for the most part. And with low pressure, the flow is counterclockwise. So you can see the arrow here is pulling all that smoke in Quebec and also Newfoundland and Nova Scotia right down through the Great Lakes and actually around the bend to Washington, D.C., and then right here into southern New England and New York City, which we saw quite a bit of smoke in the early part of June. And at the same time, we also had a pattern that was favorable to bring the smoke in from Western Canada, as you can see here. The winds go around this area of high pressure in a clockwise direction, then drop down through the Great Lakes and into New England. So the jet stream was just in a perfect enough position to bring us smoke from both the Eastern Canada wildfires and the Western Canada wildfires for several days at a time. In most cases, it just was a hazy appearance to the sky, but there were a couple of days in early June where the smoke actually made it closer to the ground. It was very hazy and also led to some health concerns. And you may have noticed some what are called air quality alerts were issued for our area of Massachusetts. So the one way we can forecast this is by using high-resolution weather models. These are kind of down to almost the neighborhood scale, and they can tell us where the smoke plumes are traveling. And you can see in this animation, the darker shades of orange and red, and especially the purples, are showing us very high concentrations of smoke through the atmosphere. So by using these forecasts, and they typically give us about 1 to 2 days lead time, we work with the folks at the EPA and the state agencies to determine where the air quality alerts will be needed and for how long. So in this case, in early June, this was around June 5th and June 6th, it was pretty much the entire Commonwealth in Massachusetts, as well as Connecticut, Rhode Island, and our neighboring states for having air quality alerts out. And that just tells people who have respiratory conditions or health concerns, should take proper precautions to stay protected from these smoky conditions, which can be dangerous. So the question always is are we going to see more smoke this summer? And, we've been in kind of this same pattern here, even into the middle and latter part of June. So as long as this weather pattern persists, we should see some more of these smoky days. The forest fires themselves are in fairly remote areas, especially up in Quebec. So they're unable to have firefighters get to them and actually put them out. They're more being contained. So we expect to see smoke throughout most of the summer, continue to travel down throughout the United States. Where exactly it goes will depend upon kind of what we call our upper air pattern or the winds at our jet stream level. But at least it looks through the end of June, maybe the first part of July. So, the first half of the summer, conditions may be favorable for us to at least see some of these, red sunrises, red sunsets. Does it get worse than that? We'll just have to kind of wait and see. But at the very least, we should see, at least a few more smoky days as we head through the summer. So it is important, to take proper precautions. And for more information, you can go to a great website called airnow.gov. You can monitor the latest conditions. There's a searchable map here that you can click on and kind of find out how the air quality is on a particular day and where the smoke is. And also it provides safety tips too. If you do have respiratory ailments and need to take extra precautions, it'll tell you exactly what to do. So airnow.gov is a great website, a great reference to go to, not just for smoke, but even for air pollution as well. All the forecasts are provided there. So that's a look at why all the smoke here in the Norwood area for the spring and summer. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. My email address is right there. I'm Joe Delle Carpini from the National Weather Service in Boston and a Norwood resident. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.